Welcome. My name is Rick McIntyre, and we're here at the Lizzie Borden House live for a discussion with President and owner of U.S. Ghost Adventures, Lance Zoll, and
Manager of the Villisca Axe Murder House, Johnny Hauser.
sorry, Johnny House. The ghost just possessed me for a moment, and we're here for to read your Q and questions that came over the internet. So we're going to start with Lance. So, what inspired you to purchase and restore the Lizzie Borden House?
I wouldn't say I restored it. A lot of work had been done to the house before me from two prior groups of owners, and we did a lot of repairs and a lot of work to the house. But I was inspired to the house through its history and its place in American history. I think it's an honor and a privilege to be able to restore the house, spend a lot of time here, get to know the people that work here, and be a steward of what's a really important part of American history. And it's important to me personally that everybody who comes here, whether it's because they want to do a ghost hunt or maybe learn about the history, or maybe they aren't interested in either history or ghost hunts, they just want to come and learn something new and have a good time. We want to be inclusive and we want everybody to feel welcome. So I'm really happy to be a part of that lineage and that part of American history.
All right, thank you. And Johnny, it's just a strange name.
Right.
What inspired you to do the same for the Villisca House?
The exact same love of history. You know, I'm a big true crime, I wouldn't say enthusiast, it just interests me, as well as all of American history. For me, when I first walked into the Villisca Axe Murder House, it hit a little different because 6 kids were murdered. And it's such a sad thing, and these kids should have laughed and played and had fun. And in my mind, preserving these places keeps them alive, keeps their memory alive. So that's like what I'm giving back to them.
Okay. This is sort of a follow-up question. What measures have you done to preserve the history and authenticity of the house while also making it welcoming to the guests?
Oh, that's a big question. That's a good question. So some of the things we did, old houses take a lot of upkeep, so a lot of the standard upkeep. In terms of the history, we acquired many different items of history, whether it's in newspapers or other aspects relating to Lizzie Borden or Fall River history. And then we put many of those items in display cases and museum-style cabinets that we have in the house. We've rearranged a few things here and there, and we've also made it more convenient for guests by installing smart locks that allow self check-in and a few other features. So we're also, the experiences is a really important part of what we do. It has nothing to do with as much the house, but in the stories that we tell. And before there was just a house tour, and now we have an Oak Grove Cemetery tour that we are launching next month. So we're going to tell more than just the Lizzie Borden story. You're going to visit their graves and hear their stories, but you'll hear a whole lot more about the Lizzie Borden story and Fall River history in general. And that's similar to what we did with doing the ghost tour in the summer of 2021. I was really impressed with the history of Fall River, the tragic fires, the other things that happened, the skeleton and the bronze armor. And I really wanted to tell Fall River's story and not just the Lizzie Borden house story at Lizzie Borden. And so that's why we started doing the ghost tour out in town, because I wanted to tell people that come here to visit the house more about the area outside of just the Lizzie Borden family. And then we do some new experience as well. So I think the biggest piece is really that experience. You have to take care of the house, but it's, to me, that storytelling is extremely important. And one of the things that we did this year, last month, is everybody is now dressing in Victorian costumes. And so we're always looking at how we can improve the experience and take it up a notch. And we're never done. We're always going to work on improving. We're always going to be looking at next year. I'm sure we'll change our mind on something and probably add something new. And the great thing is that we have an awesome staff that makes great suggestions, and we're always going to strive to continue to improve.
Great. Johnny?
These kind of jobs are far different than any other job. I mean, it's got to be a labor of love. You have to be very passionate about the story. the history, the people to spend all this time fixing up houses that were built in the 1800s, looking for objects, going through countless newspaper, 100 years looking for new information, anything we can add to the tour. And we're kind of doing this, you know, we're doing the same with Villisca. We're going to try and expand it out to not just the moors, but the town. Because if you need to understand the family, you have to understand the town and where they came from and what shaped them to who they were. I mean, knowing the town and what was going on at that time in history is just, it fits the story. You have to put yourself in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a nonstop, gives you headaches sometimes, but when you're passionate about it, you love to do it. And, you know, it's just a great combination.
Okay, we have a good introduction on both places now. With all the visitors, does it make the ghosts upset you let so many people in?
They haven't told me yes.
Acceptable.
My personal belief is if everybody on Earth has the potential to become a ghost, that's got to be like 350 trillion ghosts. The entire world is haunted. At some point, we have to coexist and be around each other. And I don't think so. You know, I think if they were and they could do something to show they were upset, it would be done. And who doesn't like company?
Yeah. And we really don't know what a ghost is, what it
Right.
is, some sort of energy. We really don't know. There's so much we don't know. It's really hard to pass a judgment.
So, are there paranormal experiences during the day?
Absolutely. I know of many staff and employees here at the house that have had odd experiences in the house, whether it's day or night, doesn't matter. And I've personally had a couple of experiences myself, but never in the daytime.
It's hard to be the interviewer when you want to beg to answer each question yourself as well.
Yeah.
But how about you, the Villisca House?
Absolutely. You know, I came to Villisca because of the history. It wasn't because of ghosts. You know, that had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even 100% sure that ghosts existed till I had an experience. And I thought, okay. Then I started cataloging the 20 years that I've been there. There's got to be patterns in this. Birthdays, anniversaries, moon phases, storms, the eclipse. Everybody thinks Halloween is the most haunted night. I've had more happen at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday in February. You know, I think it's like fishing. They're there, whether you catch one or see them jump. It's all in the right timing.
Okay. So, and this is a hard one to measure. What is the weirdest thing that has happened while in the house?
I would say the strangest things that have happened. I'll just answer for me personally. I've heard some weird things that have happened to guests that stayed at the house. In June 2021, it was the second week that I owned the house, and I talked to a lot of the guests to understand what their experiences were, what their thoughts were. And one of the things that I found interesting was there were two ladies that stayed in John Moore's room, and they shared this experience with me that I found really fantastic and hard to believe. But they had something pulling on their legs while they were sleeping. They had scratch marks on their bodies. And one of the ladies was extremely skeptical, and she said she worked in a morgue and she'd seen a lot of weird things happen there, and she didn't really believe in ghosts so much, but she couldn't believe what had happened there. But she didn't really want to talk about it. She was really uncomfortable. I think a lot of people stay here at the house, they have an experience, and then they leave. That's one of the things that we try to do is we try to encourage people to share that experience. We don't want them to feel ostracized or judged if something happened. If something weird happened, we just encourage them to feel comfortable and welcome to share it, because we do want to collect that information. That's important. For me personally, I've had a couple things happen, whether it's something that was kind of touching kind of my leg and pulling on the comforter while I was sleeping. I've heard footsteps and voices when I was the only one staying here in the house at night. We could go on forever talking about those different experiences that others have had. But I would say those are some of the strangest for me personally and what I heard from other people.
Okay. I'm not doing this for the podcast, but it feels like it's gotten significantly colder in here in the last minute while I've been talking. My arms feel really colder. But so experiences during the day? I'm sorry, weirdest thing that has happened in the house.
For me personally, I was in the house about 10 p.m. on a Friday cleaning, fixing a bed, and I locked everything up. Door opens, door shuts, somebody walks in. And in my head, I'm just like, we're not open. I was like, well, obviously they broke in because it's 10 p.m. I'm upstairs in the kids' room, so I decide to hide in the closet and scare this kid and have fun with it. Walking comes into the room. You can feel it in the floor. I mean, it was definite. I kicked the door open, did the big, there's nobody. And
You scared the ghost.
I think I scared the ghost and they scared me. And I watched a surveillance video. Door didn't open, nothing. I mean, that happened. But what I also love is when people come to the house that have never had an experience and they have one, and you can just see it in their face. They're rethinking their entire life at that moment. Everything's changed for them. You know, I love witnessing that with people.
True. So what was your strongest ghost experience from the house? It's sort of the same question as
Oh yeah, I answered that. So the story where that happened was in the Andrew and Abby bedroom, and I stayed in the room off to the side, and it wasn't too late, maybe 11:30 at night. I was finishing some work. It was in February. I toured the house before purchasing it, and I was doing the work. I felt the presence enter the room. All the hair stand up, in the back of my neck, and I felt the presence. I just remained calm. I felt it was curious. I felt like it was kind of sensing me out, and I just stayed calm. And then I felt something press down on my leg, and it started to pull the comforter slightly, and it lasted maybe a minute, and then kind of went away. I didn't feel like it was a danger. I felt it was just curious, trying to learn about me, and but that was one of the two experiences in my life where I felt like there was something odd and really unexplained going on, and that was here in this house.
Okay. And you have a stronger ghost experience than the door?
I'm sure he does.
I have so many of them, but I feel compelled to tell the experience I had last night here.
Okay.
Because it's a very cool experience for me. It was night 2 of staying by myself in the house. First night, I didn't sleep. I was up every hour. I was just like terrified,
It's Johnny's initiation.
Right. So last night, I'm the same way, and I kind of was like, come on, guys, let me sleep a little bit, and I'm still freaking out. And I rolled over on my side, and I felt a hand on my shoulder, and it was almost like a motherly, like, it's okay, son, type deal, and that just made me feel better, and I fell asleep. And that's going to stick with me for a while, because it's almost like, was I being calmed by a ghost spirit? Like, don't be scared. Like, go to sleep, little feller.
And what room is that?
So that would have been
The side room on Andrew.
Yes.
So I had him sleep in the same room where I had that experience, and we had members of the wrestling federation that were here in September. Some of you may have seen the special that they filmed here at Lizzie Borden House. Well, the two of those wrestlers stayed overnight in that same bed, and at breakfast I spoke to one of them, and they shared a very, very similar story of having something, kind of feeling a presence and having that touch you, and then pull on the comforter. So one of the things we find is that there are themes and very similar haunting stories across people, from when we look at information that's been recorded since the late 90s here at the Lizzie Borden House to today. Different people that don't know each other across different time periods, different states. And I think that's what's incredible. And so one of the things we're trying to do is we typed up all those records of hauntings. Actually, Rick typed up those records of hauntings, and we have, I think, almost 100 pages plus of data. And we want to put that into basically a spreadsheet. We want to try to do some data analysis to find out the time, what happened, where it happened. That way we can try to look at themes throughout the house, because right now everything is so subjective. And I think if we can get a little bit more data, we can maybe better understand what's happening. I think science isn't far enough to explain whatever it is, but I think it's important to kind of take as much of a scientific approach as we can and try and just basically collect data. And we're going to do the same thing at the Villisca house. People will write down a paper of their experiences, and we're gonna go through that and do the same thing there. And now we have 2 locations in different parts of the country. We're really excited to find out what we might discover, and when we do, we'll be happy to share it with you.
Yeah, having transcribed them, I can already tell you that there are several themes in different parts of the house. One of which is in the Abby and Andrew room. People often feel the comforting presence of someone holding their hand or tucking them in, or a hand on the shoulder. So you've been initiated. Welcome.
Thank you. And, that just tells me that they're not upset that people are here if they're being comforting.
Yeah.
Nice point. So, have you slept in the house alone?
Yes, I have many times. And the best time to do that is the winter. That's when it's outside of kind of the visitor season, less people. I love coming here when it's cold, it's quiet, it's still. So if you're ever wondering when the best time to come, if you want to come just to be alone with the house, come in the winter. If you want to come and meet other people and have that social experience, be around more people, definitely come in the summer. Well, I wouldn't recommend October because that's when it's just wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've slept in the house a few times. The first 2 nights I was here in February 2021, and then I've done it a few times since.
Closest I ever came was I slept here with a couple that went to bed at 7 in the evening. So effectively.
Yeah.
And you have slept here overnight.
Yes.
2 nights, yeah.
Yeah.
By yourself.
2 nights so far. And it was interesting last night because it was storming. And at one point I'm trying to go to sleep and there's a light shining through the window, casting a silhouette on the wall of the tree doing that. And all I could think of was poltergeist, with a tree limb. And I'm like, of course this is happening right now.
So actually, this is a Villisca specific question. Is it possible there was an affair going on between the wife and her husband's business partner? When I visited there was a strange EMF reading that is Shelley in Nebraska.
I try not to discredit anybody's theories or ideas because nobody knows. We have no idea. Possible, anything's possible. There was also the idea of Joe Moore having the affair on Sarah. There's a lot of small town gossip surrounding these murders. You get a murder and years and years and years of people talking, and it automatically goes to affairs, scandal, politics, greed, the normal things. We don't know. We have no idea. I hope not. You want to think of them as just being a happy, wholesome family, but
there's no evidence to suggest that that's true. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lance, specific question. Have any of the spirits given clues to who killed Lizzie's parents?
I think, that really depends on who you ask. We had some people will come out and do a ghost hunt, and they will have whatever device they're using come out and tell them that it was Lizzie Borden. That happens often. We also have people at the same time say that it was John Morse that committed the murder. So who really knows? They haven't spoken to me or done anything with me to suggest who might be the killer is. Although I think maybe there's a question in there, and if not, you can ask me at the end about who I think did it. But make it simple, no.
All right. So, which area of the house has the most paranormal activity?
Well, I would say the basement for sure, which is where we're at right now. The Andrew and Abby bedroom, the Bridget Sullivan room. I had an experience in the Bridget Sullivan room, which I forgot to mention as well. And then I would say the John Morse room. And then I would say the first floor around the dining room, and also the parlor.
Okay. And how about the Villisca house?
It seems like probably 90% everything that happens is upstairs. You got the kids, the 4 Moore children, the entire Moore family, the 2 adults. If you subscribe to the killer hiding in the attic, if he's hiding in there, going over in his head what he's going to do, that negative intent had to just seep into that attic area. And Ina and Lena's room downstairs is a number 2, but I'd say 90% upstairs for sure. But I have been mistaken in the past. I've had people that have had amazing things happen in the kitchen, which I thought nothing ever happened there. So just when you think you get it figured out, they throw you the curveball.
Gotcha. All right. So, using your future hat, will the houses remain intact for years to come for true crime fans to relish in and visit?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely.
Okay.
We hope so. We do everything we can to make it open to the public as often as people would wish to visit, and as safe and informative and entertaining.
All right. And
I'm not at retirement age yet, so it's going to go on for a while. It has to.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I did was the houses are under a trust. If anything happened to me personally, it would continue for 98, 99 years. You can only go up to 100. So the plan is that will continue and that will renew. So one of the things that I've done is ensured that no matter what happens to me personally in the future, it's guaranteed that these houses, not only Villisca and Lizzie Borden house, but our house in Gettysburg, the Welty house at the Brick House Inn, as well as the additional houses we're going to be acquiring, will remain open to the public and preserved and protected. And you know, when I told you at the beginning of the video that you know, I take that mission seriously, I do, and you can see it in the work and the money that's gone in the houses, and you can see it in what I've done to make sure that they are there long after I'm here.
got it. Have you ever thought of doing high tea at the Lizzie Borden house?
Somebody mentioned that idea one time, but we have actually been working. We have plans for a Lizzie Borden Victorian dinner night. It's kind of a Victorian dinner and murder mystery. We have everything planned out. We haven't executed it yet. So I would say it's not like a high tea, but it's a little, I think a little bit more exciting. You learn about Victorian etiquette, Victorian customs. You learn about what it was like to live back in the Gilded Age, and that's really important. So we really want to do more events here at the house like that, like those Victorian dinners. So that's something that we hope to really bring out this year. But we've been talking about it for the last 2 years.
Okay. What is your thought of William Borden, the supposed illegitimate son of Andrew, as the murderer?
I'm sure it's a possibility, but we did put him in our board game. So we made a Lizzie Borden murder mystery board game, and we made him one of the characters. We needed one more character, and I said, you know what, we have to make him a character. So I'm sure it's possible, but I think the more important question is, what motive would he have had to do that? He had nothing to gain from the murders. He wasn't on the will. Why would he risk a double murder? And then that would require him to get, you know, assistance from, you know, Lizzie, you know, and Bridget. And I don't think that's possible at all. So I would say absolutely not. Plus, I know in my mind who committed the murders, and I'll tell you why at the end. So I really don't think it was him.
Spoiler, it was Mothman. Damn, I wasn't supposed to give that away. Are there any descendants of J.T. Stillinger? Were the girls, Lena and Ina, his only 2 children?
No, they had 9 altogether. And there's still Stillingers in Corning, the next town over. In fact, interesting story, I was doing a tour once, and this lady came, and I thought, she looks really familiar. I've seen her face before somewhere. She's a direct descendant of the Stillingers, and her face was Lena Stillinger's face to a T. You know, it's weird how DNA jumps where Junior looks just like great-great-grandpa.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, I've done tours for the Moores and the Stillingers and Mary Peckham all in the house, and that's a big honor to do that for them, and they're appreciative of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, Lance, this is from Melissa Moon of Rhode Island. She writes, I decided to do Ancestry.com, and it turns out I am related to her, I assume Lizzie Borden. So I have printed this info out that shows the exact relations we are. This is pretty awesome to finally find the truth. So my question is, when is the best time to come for a tour?
Oh, great question. Well, I would say if you're looking to have more of a private tour without as many people, come in the winter months, and then that's probably the best time to come for a tour. But you know, if you don't mind being around a lot of other people, which I really love, I love going on a tour and there are other people there. You get to hear their excitement. They get to share their theories. It's more of a social experience. So I would say those both of those times are great times to come. And I think it's more important not when you come, but who you come with. You know, bring a friend, bring somebody that's maybe doesn't know about the story and has never been here, and really, you know, expose them to that. I think that makes the experience more interesting when you bring a friend, and then you can bounce ideas off each other, and then it really gets people interested in the Lizzie Borden story. Maybe this opens their world up to the vast library of Lizzie Borden books and other documentaries that are out there, you know, on the internet to learn from. So it's really opens a door to this entire Lizzie Borden universe, which I think is great. So bring a friend is more important than when you come.
The Lizzie verse, as it were. I'm
Yes,
making
that's good.
Okay, so Johnny, any of the Moores, Josiah or Sarah Moore's extended relatives still living?
Distant cousins throughout the country. The lineage is just kind of spread all over. Like I say, I've been able to do a tour, and this is probably close to 20 years ago, where they all got together and all came to the house, Stillingers and Moores, and you know that was a great honor for me, and they thanked me and Darwin and Martha for what we were doing to keep their family alive. And then they asked about an hour's worth of ghost questions, you know, and in my mind, I was like, I'm not even going to go I just tell the history. They asked it and they were interested in it, you know, so
Nice.
that made me feel really good about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is another question of asking for a story of experiencing something supernatural on any of the properties or anywhere else that you would like to share.
I'll share a story. That was first experience I had when I was in middle school. My mother and I were house sitting for a friend's house for about a month, and I slept we stayed in the basement, and there was nobody else in the house. We would hear footsteps on the floor above us, and I would have to go up 2 flights of these old wooden stairs that would creak on my way to use the restroom. So one night I woke up and I made my way through the stairs. I heard a second set of footsteps on the stairs behind me, make like creep step sound, and I thought, why do I hear somebody walking behind me? It's not my mom. So I stopped halfway and I decided, should I look behind me and see what's there, or should I keep going? I was petrified. I was too afraid to look back behind me, and so I decided to just pretend it didn't exist and keep walking. And the footsteps followed me until I went to the restroom. And you know, while I was in the restroom, I heard steps on either side of the restroom. There were 2 doors and 2 hallways on each side, and I heard footsteps like running around in the living room. And then I ran back downstairs into the basement. After that, I kept it's a little gross, but I kept a bottle by my bed, and I was so scared I didn't go back up since. The second experience that happened in that house in the basement was with my mother. One evening, we were watching TV on like a Friday or Saturday night, and in the basement there were 2 French doors. And the doors, you could see through the doors, they were French glass doors. They rattled, kind of as if just to get our attention. So they rattled, we looked to our left at the doors, and then the door handle moves down on itself. And there's moonlight outside, so we can see there's nobody on the other side doing this. The door handle goes down, the door slowly swings open all the way, and then slams shut on its own. I mean, not just like, didn't just push open, it was violently open all the way and slammed shut. And that was the scariest experience that I've ever had. That was scarier than what I experienced here at the Borden house. And I was really curious. So we went to the library. This is in Southern California, near Balboa. It was on an island called Bay Island. There are only like 12 houses on the island. It's a very old community for California. And we went to the local library and found out that there were people that died in the house. There was a woman who had instructed kids in piano, and so that was, I could go on, but that was the most incredible experience that I had when I was in middle school, and that that experience is what led me to believe like there really is something there. But I felt more at peace when I understood the history behind that. And I understood more that there was that person, and I was tired of being scared there. So at one point I said the name of the person that I thought it was who died in the house. And I said, I don't know if this is you. I don't know what you are, who you are, or what you want, but I'm not your enemy. I don't want to be your enemy. You know, if I can help you, let me know. I'd, rather be your friend. I don't mean any harm. And whether or not there was anything to actually hear me or not, it didn't matter. But whatever it was, it gave me a sense of peace. And I wasn't scared of that situation. And then any other situations I've been in, like here or in other houses, I haven't really had the same level of fear. I just try to understand. Understand and kind of be respectful and just be humble.
All right, so let's adapt that question a little bit. What was your first experience with the paranormal?
I mean, we're going clear back to about 9, 10 years old. And what was interesting is lived in a house, weird things happened, the normal weird doors open, closed, footsteps, the haunting, normal stuff. We moved, happened in the next house. We moved, happened in the next house, like 7 houses. I tried to become a normal, I didn't invite friends over. Like, my house is haunted. No, it isn't. Come stay. So it's like being a tour guide was obvious. I was back then. Friends would come over, they'd leave in the middle of the night. I tried to have a normal life. That it always kept drawing me back to the paranormal. As an adult, I've gone back to all those houses and I've knocked on the doors and, hey, I used to live here and weird things, and that's so awkward to do.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them said nothing at all has ever happened. So that's when I thought, there's haunted houses and there's haunted people.
Sure.
And I really, truly believe, as crazy as it sounds, that it's just drawn me to it my entire life. And I try and be normal, and I end up in Villisca. And then here I am at the Lizzie Borden house. Like, so many moments in my life I have to just stop and be like, what's happening? Why am I here? So I just have a lifetime of there's been more experiences in my life than I can remember having no experiences.
All right. This is an important one. And it's for both of you. What would you suggest we use for protection from entities and spirits if we tour one of these places or others that are similar? I'm not sure we can answer for all places. Shanna Floden from Layton, Iowa. But for here, what would you use for protection from entities?
Wow. I would say not allowing yourself to be overcome by any kind of fear, remaining confident and just keeping a calm, level head. I think the more that you give in to fear, and I think that perpetuates a cycle that makes things worse. So I think just remain calm, remain cool. I'm more afraid of people in this world than I am of whatever ghost might be out there. So, do you ever know anybody that's been killed by a so-and-so, ghost? I mean, I don't know. And so I would say, it's that power of belief is important. So if you have that belief that it's not going to hurt you, you're going to be okay. And, I think that faith and that power of belief is important for each individual in whatever form it is.
And please, no salt across the doorways and windows. Housekeeping gets annoyed. So how about you?
Everybody has their personal belief with sage or crystals or holy water or blessed medallions. And I totally agree with Lance. Just believe in whatever you believe in and use that for protection. And it's just like, even if you live in a house that has haunted things happening, the more you freak out and the more you overreact, the more it's going to dig into you. Sure. Stay calm, cool, collected, like in any situation, you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is there always someone, parentheses, human, and parentheses, in the house?
No. Not always. Unless you count the body we hid in the basement.
Which, for legal reasons, we didn't.
I played the fifth.
How about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of times where there's nobody in the house. And what was interesting during the pandemic, we had to shut down, and we were shut. Museums were shut down first, last to open. It was 6 months to a year that I made sure that I didn't even go into the Axe house. I wanted to see if nobody in this house for like a year, and then boom, there's a group. Does that affect it? And boom, the group went in, and no, wasn't any different. There's an occasional cat around the property that likes to sneak in. You got to keep your eye on, but other than that, it's not always booked.
That's what I think is interesting. I just want to talk about real quick because I think that there are a couple of really fun, like interesting similarities between the Villisca House and Lizzie Borden House. They're both on 2nd Street. Villisca House has a cat mascot that they feed. There was a cat named Max here at Lizzie Borden House. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But I always thought that was interesting. They both had a black cat. They're both on 2nd Street. There are a lot of other similarities in the stories which we could really go in and talk about. But I found that interesting. And there are other haunted houses. I think because another house is on 2nd Street. So a lot of haunted houses. Yeah, Sally House on 2nd Street. Yeah.
You wanted to talk about those themes. A cat is one of the themes here at the house. As recently as 3 weeks ago, a guest asked me where the cat was during the day, the one that hopped up on their bed and was kneading at the pillows. And we got a guest got a thermal image that's on our Lizzie Borden site.
Oh, we need to share that. Yeah. So a cat doing ghost biscuits.
Yeah,
that's
Ghost
pretty
biscuits.
cool. Okay, we need to add that to the website. That's a selling point.
So yeah, I mean, people like cats. The internet was built for cats.
Well, and if you're allergic, it's a ghost cat, so you're not going to get any allergies.
Allergenic.
Yeah, perfect.
So, and this is kind of a leading question. Assuming Lizzie was guilty, if this happened today, would Lizzie have been convicted of murdering her parents?
Absolutely, she would have, because they would have followed protocol with a crime scene. So without a doubt, she would have been. I believe she would have been caught. They would have found some sort of DNA evidence. She wouldn't have been able to burn her dress and evidence. They would have had people disturb the crime scene as soon as they come up on it. So for so many reasons, absolutely, I think the case would have been solved.
All right. Has anyone been hurt in the Villisca house? I assume they're excluding the original victims.
Yeah, for sure. We had an incident in 2014, but yeah, like when you go into these places and you go and investigate the paranormal, it's good to go in groups, and it's good to be level-headed, and good not to get yourself freaked out. I'm not even going to speculate on what happened, because who knows.
But what happened? We want to know what happened, right, everybody? We want to know what happened.
So
Allegedly happened.
It happened. An investigator took a knife and ran it through his chest in the downstairs bedroom. He's life flighted out of there. The family said he's going to be fine. They're saying nothing. They want it all to go away. He didn't say a word for years and years and years. And then he came down when a television show, Kindred Spirits, was filming and told his story. And it's an interesting story. And the whole episode is a very informative of, it's just a house, guys. It's literally just a house. Like, do not go down the rabbit hole when you go to these places. Because when you start going down the rabbit hole, you're going to start willing bad things to happen to you. And, keep your head on a swivel and clear.
And please do not stab yourself at any of our houses. And that's got to be an expensive helicopter ride. So not one you want to take.
Right.
So, do you notice more activity on the birthdays?
No, I wouldn't say I notice any more activity versus any other time. I wouldn't have enough information to really draw any kind of, statement from that.
And I guess that would include the anniversary of the murders as well.
No, but my favorite is the anniversary event that we have, especially when we had the band come out. That was a lot of fun.
We do have fun here. So no activity on the birthdays.
I've seen, and I've documented 20 years worth of it, I've seen nothing.
Okay.
No patterns.
So you told that story when you were young. How did you get into the paranormal business?
Well, that's long story. It started with I actually started not doing ghost tours, but started with technology. It was an app that could be used for any tour that people could take by themselves. That app is still there, but one of the things that I had on the app was a ghost tour on the app, which was really cool, and a lot of people loved using it because they could go out at midnight and do it, or 2 a.m. And I went out on a ghost tour, my first ghost tour ever, and I was in grad school, and it rained on us. They canceled the tour. I didn't really like the stories. It seemed really iffy. And it was all based off of a book that was written in the 80s. And so I thought this would be perfect to put in an app, and that's how it got started. And I tried to put the app on TripAdvisor, and TripAdvisor said that you can't just put an app, you have to actually give physical tours and sell physical tickets. So I added that to the website to sell tickets, and I thought, I hope everybody just downloads the app because I don't want to give a tour. And I hired somebody to give a tour, but I didn't want to have tour guides. I just wanted to be only an app business. So it was an accident, and that's how I got into ghost tours. But the stories in the app, I did a lot of my own research on some of the stories and corrected a lot of the things that were fake in the book. And the person was regarded as this historian who said all these correct things. And the story that they told at one house was that this slave was sold to a new slave owner, and she cursed the house, and that's why the house was so haunted. And so I did a little bit of my own research, and I found out that this person was treated very poorly. They were a victim. One of their other children were sold away from them. They left and ran away with the British because they wanted their freedom, understandably. And when the British lost, they were captured and brought back. The story never made any sense as to why that particular house was the most haunted place in that town. And so I did some research, and I found out that underneath on the eastern part of that house in the yard, there were actually Native Americans that were buried there. And I looked at the transcripts of the people that were interviewed before it went to the nonprofit that took over that building and that house. And they reported that. And the graves, when they built the tunnel that went underneath that house, the graves were disturbed in 1941. And a little boy had buried his dog next to where the other Native American artifacts were. And he asked the workers if not to disturb his dog. And sure enough, they did. And they also disturbed the burial sites for the Native Americans. But nobody had ever talked about that before. None of the other ghost tours talked about that. And that was something that nobody ever knew about. And I looked at the Apple Maps, the maps of the Google Maps on my phone, and I saw that the tunnel had went under that. And I thought that was interesting. And that's what led me down that particular path to look at the construction of the tunnel. So I really liked digging into the stories and trying to reinvent some of the stories in a way that's more accurate. And then I also tried to take more stories that were outside of the traditional realm of what they would talk about. So most of it was stories during a certain time period, but I wanted to bring out stories of things that happened to people and the people's stories from the Civil War as well. So it was more of a well-rounded tour, but that's ultimately how I got into it. I really enjoyed the storytelling, and I liked how people received the stories and how I told the stories. And I liked seeing that they were moved. And ultimately, when I tell a story, when people leave, I want them to think about their legacy, maybe how they can be better people, how they want to be remembered. And I think that's the big picture that we should take away from all the ghost stuff, all the paranormal stuff is we're not ghosts yet. We're humans. We're living here. Ask yourself, how can you be better to other people? How can you live a better life? How can you leave this world a better place than you left it? How do you want to be remembered when people are telling stories about you? So I really hope that it inspires people to be better people. And we absolutely need that in this world, and we need that today.
Nice. And prepare a list of people you want to haunt too. That would be fun.
Haunting you.
What got me into the
What's your
paranormal?
origin story?
I always investigated my houses and stuff by myself, and then of course, like every kid, would go to the cemetery and Bloody Mary and in the mirror and play with Ouija boards. But I always did it alone. And it wasn't until the X house that I realized there's other people that do this, and they're in groups and they have their names on T-shirts, and I had no idea, you know. And then I went to my first paranormal convention, and there's a lecturer, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And they go, first rule of ghost hunting, never do it alone. I thought, oh, I just messed that up already, I guess. But then the TV shows, well, honestly, I reached out to everybody in the field around my area, like, I want to learn more, you know, I just want to learn, and I got no replies. All the TV shows started coming to the Axe Murder House. So I made friends with everybody, and luckily what I really started learning was from, you know, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Lab, Dead Files, Kindred Spirits, Destiny, all these shows become sort of my mentors, and then they brought me on other shows, and it's just like a snowball effect, and now I'm sitting at the Lizzie Borden house. You know, and it's just like, how did this all happen?
Nice. Okay, so we're going to be, we're going to be combining a couple of questions here. Did Lizzie ever return to the house after she moved away? Does she herself haunt the house?
No, when she left, she moved, she got another house in town, bigger, nicer house that she always wanted. And many people do think that she still haunts the house, but who really knows?
One of the books mentioned that she would, before they sold the house, she would come by to check on the property, but never again
Right.
went inside.
Yeah, she kept it as a rental for a short period. Yeah.
So, okay, this is, has anyone else died in the house since? Or were people more cautious about who was staying there?
Yes, I understand there was at least one person that lived here after the Borden murders who died in this house.
Mhm.
So yes, I don't know a whole lot about that person. I just know there was one person. Maybe you know more about that.
I don't. We'll have to look that up. All right.
As far as any more deaths in the axe murder, you know, like these old houses, there was a lot of deaths in them from even natural causes. You didn't have emergency rooms or senior centers, you know, back then. So you see all these old 100-year-old homes, and all of them have death in it.
Gotcha. And that would be the next specific to you question. Villisca Axe Murder House, what exactly happened to make it haunted? I think you covered that, but
You know, you have 8 people murdered, killer never found, 6 of them being children. But I also think that there's something there before. You have Native American burying ground all around Villisca. And then you have, in the 1930s, they were doing seances in the house during the big spiritualist movement,
Yep.
trying to find the killer that way. And that's right in the old newspapers. And I'm just like, you know, like, hey, let's do a seance. What could go wrong?
And then you brought your ghost with you.
Right, exactly. So who knows what's in that place at this point? And then you get people that travel and they stay the night at these places. Who knows what's following you around? Who knows what's following you around? You may be here, and your ghost that hangs out with you could go, I'm going to hang out here for a while. This is kind of neat, you know? So who knows what's in Villisca at this point is, I guess, my point.
all right. So how do you feel about the ongoing fascination with Lizzie Borden?
I think it's great that there's so many aspects to the Lizzie Borden story. If you go to the museum, look at the museum display cases, you see that at one point in time, you see a Lizzie Borden comic book from the 1950s. You'll see Lizzie Borden on Broadway. You'll see today, globally, there's a Lizzie Borden musical. It's played in China. It's played in the United Kingdom. It's played here in the United States. You know, you see a Lizzie Borden ballet, Lizzie Borden golf balls. You know, we've had 2 Lizzie Borden movies in the last, you know, roughly 8 years, plus a Lizzie Borden TV show spinoff from that. So it's, you know, music, pop culture. It's a part of our culture more as much as it is as part of our history. And I think that's fascinating. I think the important thing to realize is there's so much fascination with Lizzie Borden, but let's remember that the victims of this crime were, you know, her father and her stepmother, you know, Abby Borden and Andrew Borden, and these were the victims, and these are the people that I personally feel are the ones that should be honored and remembered and respected above a Lizzie Borden or anybody else. But yes, she did go through the trial. She may have been innocent. She may have been guilty. To me, that's not relevant. To me, there are two people who were taken early. Now, not a lot of people know this, but Abby Borden, they discovered that she actually had cancer, and that she wouldn't have lived very long afterwards anyway. And they were both fairly old, so their life expectancy wasn't going to be very long. But they did not deserve that fate at all, and that's tragic. And I think it's important that we all celebrate Lizzie, and that's what I think is so interesting about the Villisca Axe Murder House is you don't have anybody celebrating, a suspected killer. Everybody's the Reverend Kelly house, it's the Lizzie Borden house, and it's so many different aspects. I find that curious, where it's more solemn and sad at the Villisca Axe Murder House, and so we try to be respectful of that with the gift shop, the souvenirs that we're making, and how we tell the story. It's important to remember the victims, and that's what was tragic. And at the same time, both houses give us a glimpse in American judicial system and how the legal process works and why you have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's why Lizzie was rightfully judged to be innocent, whether or not I think she did it. I think she did do it, but I also think that she was right for her to be acquitted because there was no evidence. And I think it's better not to send somebody to die who is innocent than, the alternative.
Also, we just don't have enough good female murderers, compared to the number of male murderers. So just Lizzie's balancing
That we know of.
That we know.
They might be too good, so they just don't get caught.
Well, they are better at planning and cleaning up. So what do you hope visitors take away from the Villisca Axe Murder House?
The Villisca Axe Murder House to me is a big lesson in hug your kids, love your family, don't take days for granted. Like you got to cherish every single moment. And that's also what I love is when people come visit the house, it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, granddaughters, families doing something together. They're not sitting there on their phones doing that. They're taking pictures and they're having this moment. And even though something terrible happened, it's bringing them together. And that's what I love about the dichotomy of it. Just love people around you and don't get so wrapped up in ghost hunting that you forget there's living people to talk to that want to talk to you.
Nice.
And remember that it's probably good to have a security alarm system on your house.
Right.
Brinks did not sponsor this episode.
Okay, so what are the biggest changes you made at the Lizzie Borden house, and how did people respond? What would you do differently if you could do it over, if anything?
That's a great question. It was the first experience I had doing anything like that. Some of the biggest changes were in the process of the booking. So online reservations and bookings were important. The Lizzie Borden house just started that after COVID hit and things started to get shut down. But you could only book 2 weeks out. So reservation system that was easier to use, easier to make reservations, more reliable, less double bookings. Other issues, more add-ons, more things for people to enjoy, more experiences, which I mentioned earlier. So we used to, there was a house tour, and then occasionally there would be a ghost hunt. The ghost hunts are a regular part of what we do every night here, as well as ghost tours. We also have a cemetery tour that we're launching next month, and then we have an overnight ghost hunt that we also offer. So we increased the number of experiences. We made it convenient for guests to do self-check-in, self-checkout with door codes while increasing security. So we really wanted to make it more convenient for people. We replaced all the mattresses and the sheets and the pillows to make it more comfortable for them to sleep on. You might get haunted, you might be scared, you might not sleep, but if you do sleep, I want you to be comfortable while you're here. So we did some things that you don't see. Restoration in the basement, ceiling leaks in the basement. We reinforced the foundation of the house. We had a lot of work done just to repair rotting wood. The bathroom had a huge section in the first floor of the house of rotting wood. It was in bad shape. There was mold. So just a lot of upkeep on the house that that needed to happen. And what was the other part of that question?
Would you do it differently if you could do it?
Oh yeah, so yeah, definitely. I did everything fast and quick and rapid, and I think if I were to do things over again, I would have done things. I would have taken my time. I would have done them a little bit slow. I did a lot of change really fast, and for a couple different reasons. But I definitely learned to do things a little bit different, and it was a little bit of a more rocky transition. For sure. But we definitely admit our mistakes and and try to make up for them and make it right to anybody that may have been inconvenienced or didn't have a great time from that. And I think we've really learned that lesson in moving in other properties and other places like Liska. And every location is different, and it's really difficult with the Lizzie Borden house because there are so many people that are super passionate about Lizzie Borden. They have their own opinions and connections to the people that were in the house, and it's really hard, difficult to take over from that. But there are definitely things I would do differently, and I learned a lot from it. It was a fantastic experience. It was tough, but it was one of the best experiences I had in my life with the few months I spent in New England working with the transition of the house.
Nice. So you mentioned a little bit, but are there any future plans you haven't yet discussed?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, well, we're launching the cemetery tour next month. We want to do some more events like the Victorian dinners. As a company outside the Lizzie Borden house, well, we are creating an official Lizzie Borden doll, and she's going to be a ghost hunting companion. So she's going to be similar to Lily, who happens to be here. But the official Lizzie Borden doll is going to have an EMF detector inside. She's also going to have a motion sensor, so she'll make a noise if you kind of press her. She'll be a 3D face recreation of Lizzie Borden. So the other Lizzie Borden dolls that you see, they don't really look like her. We're making this one so that she actually looks like her. It'll be released sometime in this summer. So we're really excited to have a Lizzie Borden doll. We're also releasing a line of ghost hunting equipment, which we'll talk about later this year. We're doing new souvenirs, new versions of souvenirs. We're looking at doing more virtual events and doing them better. I really wasn't happy with a virtual event that we did over Christmas, here at the house. So we're looking at how we can do better with certain things, and also the podcast. So we'll start the Mysterium podcast, and that podcast will take place from the Ballistic Axe Murder House and the Lizzie Borden house, and we are opening over 100 tours in over 100 new cities across the United States this year. That will be open between now and July. So that's really exciting, and we'll be busy.
All right. How about you?
I've been at the Villisca Axe Murder House basically from the beginning. When I got there, Darwin kind of was around. No tours were happening, maybe one every couple of months. So I've seen it through the beginning, and not much had changed. You know what I mean? And like the merging with Lance wasn't something on a whim. We got to know Lance, and Lance got to know Martha and what we're about. And it was like, yes, this is what we want to do. So the changes that are going to be happening and are happening do not affect the integrity of the house or the barn or the story. It's things to make our lives easier, which in turn is going to make the customer's experience better. Mm-hmm. The keyless locks, the booking online, things of that nature. So people can relax. We're not changing the house, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. We put in a lot of repairs of the house that have badly needed cracks in walls and things it's rocking now. It's solid. It's going to be there for a long time. And it's a lot of things that the house has badly needed that just never happened. And now they're happening. And it's such a great thing. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, and I will say that Martha really cared about the house. She took great care of the house. Usually when I will buy another house, the people that are selling it, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at the house. Usually roofs that need to be redone, and they're not doing it because they want to put that cost onto the next person that's buying it. Martha knew I was going to buy it, and she still chose to spend tens of thousands of dollars to install pavement, install concrete pavement out front. She redid the roofs and put steel roofs on both the barn and the house. I mean, and she did it because she said, I want you to inherit this house in as good a shape as I can get it. And that's so rare. You just don't see that. You just see somebody just wanting to, push that off, those expenses off somewhere else. But I think, the changes around the Villisca Axe Murder House are centered towards making people more comfortable in the house, making it more convenient for them. So right now, maybe you're tired, maybe you want to lay down. There are no rentable rooms in the Villisca house like there are here in the Lizzie Borden house, where you can rent a room, you can stay overnight, maybe you can take a nap, you have a nice big bed to sleep on. You can't sleep on those beds at the Villisca house. So, we're offering, at least for now, cots for people that people can rent. And we're looking at ways where we can make it more comfortable. We're going to be renovating the barn. And then we would love to get the actual axe murder weapon so that we can display it in the house, because right now it's like underground in some vault and nobody gets to see it or experience. So, we would love to display that, and we're doing whatever we can to really just improve the experience for the visitors. So if you like coming there for ghosts, or if you like coming there for the history, we hope that whatever change we make really benefits you as the visitor.
All right, so we've got some, I know we've got some Facebook Live questions, but did you want to do the big reveal? Who committed the murder?
Okay, sure, yes. Before I do, we have a cemetery tour in Villisca, and a town tour that you can take on your phone on the app. So that's another thing that, people want to go experience that, they can take that, or they can do a private tour. So for the Lizzie Borden house, I absolutely believe that Lizzie Borden committed the murders. And the reason I believe that is actually a few. I think that I don't think it was I don't think it was elaborately planned out murder when it happened, because we know the day before she went, she tried to buy prussic acid. I think if she had purchased prussic acid as she wanted to and use it in the murders, I think they would have known that it was prussic acid, because the pharmacist would have said that she bought that, and the symptoms of the murder would have aligned, and I think she would have been guilty, and I think that would have been it. I also think that the victims were familiar with whoever it was in the house. We know Abby Borden, where she was killed and when she was first struck. It wasn't surprise from the back. And I think she was comfortable with whoever was in the room with her, may have been helping her make the bed in the Morse room. And then I think she was struck. So I think both the victims were comfortable with whoever was in the house. I think Andrew Borden went down on the couch to go to sleep. I don't think somebody was hiding somewhere in the house. I think that's highly unlikely. We had 3 other people here in the house before Andrew got here. You had locks on the doors, multiple locks on the doors, and you also had motive, which was the will. So I absolutely think that Lizzie Borden committed both murders physically, and if she didn't commit both the murders physically, that she knows who did, and she was involved with whoever had done that. I don't think that John Morse would have done the murders. I don't think he did do the murders. I don't think he had any motive to do it. He was a successful businessman as well. He had a lot to lose and nothing to gain. So no, I don't believe it was John Morse. I think it was very, very clearly Lizzie Borden. Other people may have known that she did it, but I think what proof would they have had? Now, how did she do it? I believe she may have done it with an iron and then just burn out the blood. I think the dress that she did burn, destroying the evidence. I think there may have been murder blood on that. But there are a lot of different ways in which it could have taken place. Also, her standing at the top of the stairs and laughing after Abby Borden was killed, being right next to the room. How could you not know that? I mean, I think for me, there are a lot of people that are like, oh, who did it or how did it do it? For me, it just seems very clear that it was Lizzie Borden. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you can't do that. But that's just my opinion, and everybody's welcome to their own theories and thoughts. But for me, it's 100% Lizzie Borden.
All right, so not Mothman.
No.
Not Mothman. All right, you're clear, Mothman. All right, who do you think did the murders at the Villisca house?
For me personally, Reverend Kelly. There's tons of suspects. I mean, you had 5 years of gossip in a small town about a murder. Everybody was looked at some point. Reverend Kelly just checks the most boxes for me. He was there like a block and a half up the road. He confessed to it. He told people on the train before they found the body, turns in a bloody shirt to be dry cleaned, comes back inserting himself into the investigations like he's a detective. I found an old note in South Dakota where a lady wakes up in the middle of the night. Kelly's just sitting at her table. She's like, "Hi, can I help you?" And he's like, "Oh, the killer in Villisca made a big mistake and how we should all have pity on the poor guy that did this." I'm like, "What?" And then nobody knows this one. I've been saving this for the big reveal.
Dun dun.
I had a lady come to my house and she said, "Do you know so-and-so?" He was a 100-some-year-old man in town who passed away quite a ways ago. He was an elder for the Presbyterian Church. And they said that they got a letter in the mail from New York, which is where Kelly stayed. Not a lot of people know that. From Reverend Kelly confessing to the whole thing. And they said they burned the letter, which seems weird to people. But back then, there's a big split between the Methodist and the Presbyterian because F.F. Jones went to one, the Moores went to the other. It was so bad it split the entire town. That finally subsided. So the Presbyterians would be thinking, do we want to reignite this feud? Or Kelly's already paying for his sins, let's burn this and move on. So, I mean, you have all of that and stuff still coming out. That was this year I heard that. You know, all the other suspects, you got like 2 things and they don't even add up. So I could be wrong, who knows? But that's who I'm going with right now.
That's who I'm going with for Villisca as well, Reverend Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just look at the demeanor. And going back to Lizzie Borden, the evidence for Lizzie Borden too. I mean, you look at the responses that she gave at the inquest. You look at her demeanor, her reaction, her emotional state, just cold as ice. So I think that is another piece of evidence I wanted to add on there. Who do you think committed the murders in the Borden house? Based on you took a tour, your first tour yesterday.
Yeah, I did my first tour. Growing up and loosely hearing about the Lizzie Borden thing, I always thought it was just common knowledge that Lizzie did it. I came into the tour, I was like, I'm going to take that out of my mind, no preconceptions. I thought John Binnikin Moores possibly, which lived 20 minutes from Villisca, which is an interesting little side story. But after taking the tour, and your tour guides here are amazing. They know their stuff inside and out. It's so interesting. I am going with Lizzie.
You are. Okay.
That she had all the motive, all of it, and all that money, and you know, the cast of characters that might have known about it, that may have been in on it, or just went along. Mm-hmm. Not sure, but I mean, she's right in the middle of all of it, with the most to gain.
Yeah, you take like some Navy SEAL spy, and you try to get them to infiltrate a house with 3 different people inside. On a Sunday afternoon, around 11 a.m. There's somebody's noticing something in somebody. You're not getting away with that.
Again, I'm the interviewer, so I'll keep my theories to myself. But we have questions here that have come from our Facebook Live event and been taken by our awesome Ashley, the ace. Nope.
Yeah, you can talk from there.
Okay. You know.
She didn't get the makeup.
The only comment. So we got so Love It 99 said my family is related. Have you investigated the Tamer house?
Don't know about it. No, sorry.
And Nicole Scarn says we love Rick.
Oh, thank you, Nicole.
We love Rick too.
Rick's awesome.
All right. So, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for joining us. We hope to do more of these. I know the audio might not be great. The filming isn't the best, but that's something that we're going to work on. We really want to work on to make it more enjoyable for you. And we plan to do more content throughout the country. We have a lot of other really exciting plans for the company and for the locations. We're going to have new locations this year as well. So we hope to, we thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. And thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got something from it. And you may want to know who I'm voting for president this year.
Oh yeah, who are you voting for to bring
I'm voting
politics
for Lizzie Borden, and I'm voting for her because we want less taxes and more access. And that's why you got to go with Lizzie Borden. So this is our limited edition T-shirt. I have to do a plug. Sorry, but we need somebody a little younger than the current candidates. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. Usually we do that before you go live.
No, I was live.
Okay, good.